Dr. Sarah Chen stood before the massive radio telescope array in Chile's Atacama Desert, watching as the unusual readings continued to pour in. For 3 days straight, they had been detecting something that defied conventional physics. Energy signatures that seemed to ripple through multiple dimensions at once. Dr. Chen, her assistant Marco, called out, his voice trembling slightly. "The pattern, it's changed." Sarah rushed to his station, her heart pounding. The chaotic energy signatures had suddenly organized themselves into a coherent pattern. As she watched, the readings began forming clear, geometric shapes across their displays. "This isn't random," she whispered, her fingers flying across the keyboard. "This is a message." Before she could begin decoding it, every alarm in the facility started blaring. Something massive had just appeared in high Earth orbit, bypassing all their early warning systems. Within hours, the world's militaries were on high alert, and space agencies worldwide tracked what appeared to be a vessel nearly 2 kilometers long. Its surface seemed to shift and flow like liquid metal, defying human engineering principles. Sarah found herself quickly transported to a hastily assembled international committee in Geneva. Representatives from every major space agency and military power sat in tense silence as they watched the alien vessel maintain its position. "It's broadcasting," announced Dr. James Harrison from NASA, his tablet displaying a stream of data. "The patterns match what we detected in Chile." Before anyone could respond, every screen in the room flickered to life. The image that appeared stunned the assembled humans into silence. The being on the screen was roughly humanoid, but its skin appeared to be made of shifting crystalline patterns. Its eyes held depths that seemed to peer into multiple realities at once. "People of Earth," the alien spoke, its words automatically translating in everyone's minds. "We are the Luminary, and we come seeking your help." The room erupted in confused murmurs. Of all the scenarios they had planned for first contact, this wasn't one of them. "Our civilization spans thousands of light years," the luminary continued. "We have mastered energy, matter, and the fundamentals of reality itself. Yet we face an enemy we cannot comprehend, much less defeat." The screen shifted to show something that made Sarah's scientific mind revolt. A vast darkness moved between the stars, but it wasn't just absence of light. It was as if reality itself was being unmade, reformed into something that human senses couldn't process. "We call it the Void Harmonist," the alien explained. "It doesn't just destroy, it rewrites the fundamental laws of physics. Our greatest minds cannot grasp its nature because it operates outside the bounds of logic itself." Sarah found herself speaking up, her scientific curiosity overwhelming protocol. "Why come to us? We're centuries behind your technology." The crystalline being's expression shifted in a way that might have been a smile. "Precisely, Dr. Chen. Your species is unique in our experience. While other civilizations evolved through pure logic and reason, humanity developed differently. You dream. You imagine. You create art and music that defies logical explanation. Your minds work in ways that our most advanced quantum computers cannot replicate." The revelation hit Sarah like a physical force. The Luminary weren't here for Earth's technology or resources. They were here for something far more fundamental, the human capacity for abstract thought. "The Void Harmonist approaches your sector of space," the alien continued. "We detected its trajectory shift 3 solar cycles ago. We believe it sensed something in humanity that drew its attention. The same thing that drew us here." Military leaders began arguing about defense strategies, but Sarah couldn't take her eyes off the images of the cosmic horror approaching Earth. The way it moved reminded her of patterns she'd seen before, in human brainwave readings during REM sleep. "It's not just consuming reality," she muttered, then spoke louder. "It's dreaming it into something else." The luminary ambassador's crystalline form pulsed with what might have been excitement. "Yes, this is why we need you. Your species naturally comprehends concepts that our most advanced philosophers struggle with. You understand contradiction, paradox, and the logic of dreams. More refugee ships began arriving over the next few days, each carrying members of the luminary civilization who had fled the Void Harmonists' advance. They brought with them technology beyond human comprehension, but they looked to humanity not for technological solutions, but for a fundamentally different way of thinking. As Sarah worked with the aliens, studying both their advanced science and the approaching cosmic horror, she began to understand why they had come to Earth. Humanity's greatest strength wasn't our technology or our resources. It was our ability to think in ways that defied pure logic. Our creativity, our dreams, our ability to imagine the impossible might be the key to saving not just Earth, but reality itself. The question was, could they find a way to weaponize human consciousness before the Void Harmonist arrived? As Sarah looked at the latest readings, she realized they had less time than anyone thought. The entity wasn't just approaching, it was accelerating, drawn to Earth like a moth to a flame. The laboratory deep beneath the Rocky Mountains hummed with a strange energy as Dr. Sarah Chen studied the holographic display before her. It showed two neural patterns. One was the crystalline structure of a luminary mind, perfectly ordered and precise. The other was human, chaotic, and pulsing with seemingly random activity. "Watch this," she said to Ambassador Vix, their crystalline form shimmering in the dim light. She began playing a piece of classical music, and the human neural pattern exploded into a dance of colors and connections. "See how our minds create associations, memories, emotions, all from simple sound waves." The luminary leaned closer, their crystalline features reflecting the dancing patterns. "Fascinating. When we process music, we see only mathematical patterns, harmonics, and wave functions. You see stories." "More than that," Sarah replied, switching to another display. "Look at these readings from the Void Harmonist. The way it distorts reality. It's not random. It's creating patterns similar to human dream states." The discovery had come 3 days ago, when Sarah's team noticed similarities between the entity's reality warping effects and human brain activity during deep REM sleep. It was as if the cosmic horror was dreaming new forms of reality into existence, much like human minds created entire worlds during sleep. Dr. James Harrison entered the lab, carrying fresh data from the global monitoring network. "It's accelerating again. At current speeds, it'll reach the Proxima Centauri system in less than a month." Sarah nodded grimly. They were running out of time, but they were also getting closer to understanding their enemy. The Void Harmonist wasn't just destroying reality, it was reimagining it, much like how human minds could reshape reality in dreams. "Ambassador," Sarah said, turning to Vix, "your people have tried fighting this thing with logic, with physics, with everything that makes sense. But what if that's exactly why you failed? What if you need something that doesn't make sense?" The luminary's crystalline surface rippled with interest. "Explain." Sarah pulled up another display, this one showing the results of their latest experiments. Human consciousness doesn't just observe reality. It actively participates in shaping it. Quantum physics has shown that human observation affects the behavior of particles. What if we could amplify that effect? The idea had come to her during a late-night session with the luminary scientists. They had been attempting to interface their quantum technology with human brain patterns, mostly failing when something unexpected happened. A test subject had fallen asleep during the procedure, and for a brief moment, the quantum field had responded to their dreams. "Look at this," she said, playing back the recording. The quantum field measurements showed impossible patterns forming, reality briefly bending in ways that shouldn't have been possible. When we dream, our minds operate outside normal physics. We create impossible spaces, break causality, rewrite the rules of reality itself. Vix's form pulsed with excitement, like the Void Harmonist. "Exactly," Sarah said. "But while it's trying to impose its dream on reality, we might be able to counter it with our own." The next few days saw a flurry of activity as human scientists and luminary engineers worked to develop what they called the Dream Interface. It was a merger of alien quantum technology and human neuroscience, designed to amplify and direct human consciousness in ways never before attempted. The first tests were disastrous. Test subjects experienced severe psychological trauma as their dreams leaked into reality, creating localized zones of chaos. But with each failure, they learned more about how human consciousness interacted with the fabric of reality itself. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source: a young artist named Maya Santos, who had been brought in to help visualize the interface designs. While the scientists had been focusing on controlling and directing dream consciousness, Maya suggested something different. "We're thinking about this wrong," she said, sketching rapidly on her tablet. "Dreams aren't about control. They're about flow, about letting your mind explore possibilities without trying to force them. What if instead of trying to weaponize dreams, we treated them like a form of communication?" Sarah watched as Maya's simple sketch began to evolve into something more: the tablet's AI interpretation software struggling to keep up with concepts that shouldn't have been possible to draw. The resulting image seemed to shift and change every time you looked at it, just like a dream. "The Void Harmonist isn't just destroying reality," Maya continued, her eyes bright with inspiration. "It's trying to communicate, to share its dream with the universe. But it's so alien, so different, that its dream becomes a nightmare for everything else." The idea hit Sarah like a thunderbolt. They didn't need to fight the entity. They needed to understand it, to dream with it, to show it other ways of reimagining reality that didn't require unmaking everything that existed. But as the team began reconfiguring their approach, the monitoring stations reported new activity. The Void Harmonist had changed course again, and this time it was heading straight for Earth. Whatever they were going to do, they needed to do it fast. The race was on to build a device that could connect human dreamers directly to the fabric of reality itself. As Sarah watched the construction of the first dream interface chamber, she couldn't help but wonder, what happens when you let human imagination loose on the fundamental structure of the universe? They were about to find out, ready or not. The dream interface chamber looked like something born from a collaboration between H.R. Giger and Leonardo da Vinci. Curved organic shapes flowed into precise geometric patterns, while luminary quantum crystals pulsed with an inner light that seemed to bend reality around them. Maya Santos stood before it, her artist's eye taking in every impossible detail. "Are you sure about this?" Dr. Chen asked, checking Maya's neural monitors one last time. The previous test subjects were all trained psychologists and lucid dreamers. "I'm someone who lives in imagination," Maya interrupted, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "That's what we need right now, isn't it?" The chamber had been completed ahead of schedule, driven by necessity as the Void Harmonist continued its inexorable approach toward Earth. 3 previous attempts at contact had failed spectacularly. The first subject, a quantum physicist, had suffered a mental breakdown trying to rationalize what he experienced. The second, a Buddhist monk known for his meditation skills, had become locked in a catatonic state. The third had simply disappeared, leaving behind only a faint smell of ozone, and impossible geometric patterns burned into the chamber walls. Sarah watched as Maya was secured into the neural interface cradle. Around them, a joint team of human and luminary scientists monitored banks of equipment that measured everything from quantum fluctuations to the subtle vibrations of space-time itself. Ambassador Vic's approach, their crystalline form dimmed to a concerned purple hue. "The entity has passed the outer edge of the Oort cloud. We have perhaps 48 hours before it reaches the solar system proper." Maya closed her eyes as the interface needles extended, preparing to connect her consciousness directly to the quantum field generators. "Then let's not waste any more time." The activation sequence began. Maya's consciousness expanded outward, carried by the luminary quantum technology, into a space that existed somewhere between reality and dreams. At first, all she could perceive was vastness, an infinite canvas of possibility that made her artist's soul sing with joy. Then she saw it. The Void Harmonist wasn't the darkness she had expected. It was light. infinite light, refracting through dimensions that shouldn't exist, creating patterns that made her mind scream with their beauty and horror. It was art beyond anything humanity had ever conceived, a symphony of reality being unmade and remade with every passing moment. Contact established, someone said, their voice seeming to come from 1,000,000 miles away. Neural patterns are stable. Quantum field coherence at 60% and climbing. Maya didn't hear them. She was too busy watching the entity's dreams unfold around her. She saw universes born and die in patterns that would make Esther weep. She saw mathematics that wrote poetry and music that could build galaxies. My God, she whispered into the void. You're not destroying reality at all, are you? You're trying to paint something new. The entity's attention shifted, and Maya felt the weight of its awareness crash over her like a tsunami. For a moment, she thought she would be crushed by the sheer alienness of its consciousness. But then her artist's mind did what it had always done when confronted with something new. It began to create. Maya imagined her own dreams, throwing them out into the quantum field like paint on a canvas. She showed the entity Earth's sunsets and starry nights, Van Gogh's swirling skies, and Picasso's fractured perspectives. She shared the dreams of every human who had ever looked at the stars and imagined what might be out there. The monitors in the control room went wild as reality itself began to fluctuate around the chamber. Quantum coherence at 120%. Someone shouted. This shouldn't be possible. Sarah watched in amazement as patterns of light and shadow danced across the chamber walls, forming images that seemed to draw themselves. She recognized Maya's artistic style, but twisted and expanded into dimensions that shouldn't exist. Look, Vic said, their crystalline form pulsing with excitement. The entity, it's responding. The void harmonist patterns began to change, its reality warping effects taking on new forms. Where before it had simply unmade everything it touched, now it began to create. The space around it bloomed with impossible structures and colors that had never existed before. Maya felt tears streaming down her face as she witnessed the entity's attempt to communicate back. It was showing her its own dreams, dreams of a universe where the lines between art and physics, between imagination and reality, didn't exist. But the strain was beginning to tell. Blood trickled from Maya's nose as her mind struggled to contain concepts it was never designed to process. The quantum field around the chamber began to destabilize. Neural patterns are becoming erratic. A technician called out. We need to pull her out. Wait. Maya's voice cracked with effort. I almost have it. I can almost. The chamber erupted in a cascade of quantum energy. When the chaos cleared, Maya laid unconscious in the cradle, but she was smiling. On every surface of the chamber, in colors that shouldn't exist, were paintings, works of art that seemed to move and breathe with a life of their own. As the medical team rushed to stabilize Maya, Sarah studied the strange artwork. Hidden in the impossible patterns, she began to see something, a message, encoded in the language of dreams and art, rather than mathematics or words. Ambassador, she called to Vix. I think we just had our first real conversation with it. The luminary approached, their crystalline form reflecting the strange new colors. What did it say? Sarah's hand traced one of the patterns, her fingers tingling where they touched the quantum-infused pigments. It's lonely, she whispered. It's been traveling through space for eons, trying to find others who could see the universe the way it does. And now, she turned to the ambassador, her eyes wide with realization. Now it's found us, and I don't think it wants to destroy Earth at all. I think it wants to teach us how to dream like it does. The question was, could humanity learn to dream on that scale without losing itself in the process? They had 48 hours to figure it out. Maya's discovery had changed everything, but time was still running out. The void harmonist's approach was wreaking havoc on reality even without hostile intent. Cities around the world reported strange phenomena. Gravity fluctuating in random patterns, time flowing at different speeds in different places, and dreams beginning to leak into the waking world. In the depths of the Rocky Mountain facility, Dr. Sarah Chen stood before an emergency council of world leaders and luminary representatives. Behind her, a holographic display showed the entity's position, now just past Neptune's orbit. "We can't stop it," she began, "but maybe we don't have to." Maya's contact revealed that the entity isn't our enemy. It's an artist on a cosmic scale, seeking others who can understand its work. The problem is, its art reshapes reality itself. The chamber they stood in had been transformed by Maya's interaction with the entity. The walls rippled with living paintings that defied physics, each one a window into possibilities that shouldn't exist. Some observers had to leave, unable to process what they were seeing. "We propose Operation Dreamscape," Sarah continued. "Instead of fighting the entity, we'll attempt to collaborate with it. Show it how to create without destroying what already exists." Ambassador Vix stepped forward, their crystalline form now showing traces of the impossible colors from Maya's artwork. "Our scientists have modified the dream interface based on what we learned. We can now support multiple dreamers simultaneously, creating a shared dream space." The plan was audacious. They would gather Earth's most creative minds, artists, musicians, writers, and dreamers of all kinds, and connect them through the modified interface. Together, they would attempt to dream with the entity, to teach it the beauty of creation that builds upon rather than replaces. Maya, still recovering from her encounter, had helped select the team. "We need people who can embrace impossibility," she'd said. "People who already live with one foot in dreams." The first full team test began 12 hours later. 20 dreamers entered their cradles, their minds linking through the quantum field. Sarah watched the monitors as their consciousness expanded outward, reaching toward the approaching entity. The effect was immediate and stunning. The quantum field erupted with creativity as 20 human minds began to dream in concert. They created symphonies of light, architectures of thought, and paintings made of time itself. The void harmonist responded, its own artistic expression interweaving with theirs. But something was wrong. The entity's power was overwhelming, its dreams too vast for human minds to contain. One by one, the dreamers began to fall into chaos. Neural patterns destabilizing. A technician called out, "The shared dream space is collapsing." Sarah watched in horror as the dreamers began to scream, their minds overwhelmed by concepts they were never meant to comprehend. The quantum field fluctuated wildly, reality rippling around them like water in a storm. Then Maya, against all medical advice, rushed into the chamber. "Link me in," she shouted. "I've touched its mind before. I can help them understand." Before anyone could stop her, she grabbed one of the neural interfaces and connected herself to the network. Her consciousness exploded into the shared dream, and everything changed. Maya's artist's mind acted as a translator, helping the other dreamers process what they were experiencing. Through her, they began to understand the entity's artistic language, its dreams of a universe where imagination and reality were one. The void harmonist responded to their renewed contact with what could only be described as joy. Its reality warping effects began to change, becoming more focused, more controlled. Instead of unmaking reality, it began to enhance it, adding new layers of possibility to what already existed. Together, the human dreamers and the cosmic entity began to create something entirely new. They painted with probability, sculpted with space-time, and composed music that made quantum particles dance. The impossible colors from Maya's first contact spread throughout the facility, but now they were beautiful rather than terrifying. Sarah gasped as she understood what she was seeing. "They're teaching each other," she whispered. "The entity is learning to create without destroying, and we're learning to dream on a cosmic scale. But the universe has rules that even dreams must follow." As the collaboration deepened, sensors throughout the solar system began reporting critical changes in the fabric of reality. The barrier between dreams and waking was growing dangerously thin. Ambassador Vix studied the readings with alarm. "The dimensional boundaries are becoming unstable. If this continues, Both our realities could collapse. Sarah looked at the dreamers, their faces showing both agony and ecstasy as they danced on the edge of human comprehension. They were creating wonders, but at what cost? The entity was still approaching, its vast consciousness now intimately entangled with the dreams of humanity. They had 24 hours until it reached Earth. 24 hours to find a way to either separate their realities or find a way to exist together without destroying everything in the process. As Sarah watched the impossible artwork spreading across the facility, she realized humanity stood at a crossroads. They could retreat from this connection, return to the safety of conventional reality, or they could take the next step in evolution, embracing a new way of existing where dreams and reality were no longer separate. The choice would have to be made soon. Very soon. The Rocky Mountain facility had become a nexus of impossibility. Reality flickered and shifted like a kaleidoscope as the void harmonist drew closer, now just past Mars' orbit. The shared dreams of 21 humans, led by Maya's artistic vision, had transformed the complex into something that defied description. A space where imagination and physics danced together in ways that threatened to tear apart the fabric of existence itself. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in what had once been the main control room, though it now resembled a living art gallery crossed with a quantum physics experiment. The walls breathed with impossible colors, and equations wrote themselves in midair only to transform into flowering vines of pure mathematics. The dimensional barriers are critical, Ambassador Vix reported, their crystalline form now a symphony of shifting hues. We have perhaps 3 hours before the separation between dreams and reality becomes irreparable. The dreamers had managed to establish a deep connection with the entity, teaching it to create rather than destroy. But in doing so, they had begun to transform their own reality. The question was no longer about stopping the void harmonist. It was about preventing two fundamentally different forms of existence from tearing each other apart. Maya's voice echoed through the quantum field, carrying thoughts that weren't meant for human language. It understands now. It never meant to destroy. It simply couldn't conceive of creation without transformation. But it's learned from us, just as we've learned from it. Through the dream link, Sarah could see what Maya meant. The entity had begun to change its approach, attempting to contain its reality warping effects. But it was like asking a sun not to shine. The very nature of its existence altered everything around it. Then Maya shared an image that made Sarah's heart stop. It wasn't a solution to their problem. It was an evolution of it. We've been thinking about this wrong. Maya's consciousness rippled through the dream space. We're not choosing between our reality and its reality. We're being offered the chance to expand what reality means. Sarah watched as Maya and the other dreamers began to shape something new in the shared space between minds. They weren't trying to separate the dreams from reality anymore. They were building bridges, creating spaces where both could exist simultaneously. The entity responded with what could only be described as delight, its vast consciousness adding to their work. Together, they began to craft what Maya called dream anchors, points in space where imagination could flourish without destroying the underlying fabric of conventional reality. It's like art galleries, Maya explained, her consciousness burning bright with inspiration. We don't let paintings rewrite reality, but we create special places where they can exist and be experienced. We can do the same thing with dreams. The next few hours were a blur of creation as the combined human entity consciousness reshaped the solar system. The dream anchors spread out from Earth like a web, each one a sanctuary where imagination could run wild without threatening the stability of normal space. But the process was taking its toll. The dreamers were operating far beyond normal human limits, their minds stretched between realities. One by one, they began to fade, their consciousness unable to maintain the connection. Maya refused to withdraw, even as her vital signs became critical. Almost. There, she gasped, her physical form convulsing as her mind danced among the stars. The void harmonist had reached the asteroid belt when everything changed. The dream anchors suddenly blazed to life, creating a network of stable points throughout the solar system. Reality itself seemed to take a deep breath and settle into a new configuration, one that could support both traditional physics and dream-shaped spaces. The entity's approach slowed, then stopped. Through the dream link, it expressed something between gratitude and awe. Humanity hadn't just shown it how to create without destroying. They had given it a home, places where its artistic expression could exist without unmaking everything around it. In the facility, Maya finally collapsed, her consciousness returning to her body. Medical teams rushed to stabilize her, but she was smiling. On the walls around her, impossible artwork continued to flow and change, but now it was contained, controlled, a window into dreams rather than a tear in reality. Sarah helped Maya sit up once the medical team cleared her. "Did we succeed?" Maya asked, her voice weak but triumphant. Sarah gestured to the nearest window. Outside, the sky had changed. Between the familiar stars, new points of light shimmered in colors that hadn't existed before today. Each one was a dream anchor, a gallery where human imagination and cosmic art could safely intermingle. "We did more than succeed," Sarah answered. "We evolved." The luminary were in awe. Their civilization had mastered the physical universe, but humanity had shown them something beyond physics, the power of dreams to reshape reality itself, not through force, but through creativity and understanding. In the months that followed, the dream anchors became centers of both scientific research and artistic expression. Humanity had gained not just a new ally in the Void Harmonist, but a new understanding of their own potential. They were no longer bound by the traditional limits of reality. They had learned to dream with their eyes open, to imagine new possibilities, and then make them real. Maya recovered slowly, changed by her experience, but not broken by it. She spent her time teaching others how to safely navigate the dream spaces, helping to bridge the gap between human consciousness and cosmic creativity. The entity remained in the solar system, its vast consciousness now a collaborative partner in humanity's greatest artistic endeavor, the reimagining of what was possible. Together, they began to explore ways to expand the dream anchors, creating safe harbors for imagination throughout the galaxy. As Sarah watched Earth adapt to its new reality, she reflected on how differently things might have gone. They had faced an entity that could have unmade their world, and instead of fighting it, they had chosen to understand it. In doing so, they had transformed not just their future, but the very nature of reality itself. The stars shone differently now, their light mixing with the impossible colors of dream anchors. Between them, humanity had found its true gift to the universe, not technology or weapons or power, but the ability to dream new realities into being, one imagination at a time.